everybody, welcome to Burnley College Trade Secrets. Today we've got a unique problem that we need to make a big frame with mortices and tenons, but with obviously no machinery. So we're going to do that with portable power tools. So the tools that we need to do this to start with are a full set of chisels, we need some good cramps, maybe a tool belt, panel saw, claw hammer, combination square, marking gauge, cordless drill driver, tape measure and a good industrial size router. In the router we're going to need a 50mm long 12mm bit, which will do the job for us. Okay, so that's the tools. There's probably a few more. The way this works is we started off by making a jig, and this jig will do all of your tenons. So if I just take that apart for now, the first thing you need to do is get a nice flat board, and on the underside just put yourself a piece of timber, anything you've got lying about, and that just enables you to slot that inside your workmate and tighten that up. And now that's nice and stable. Okay, the second thing is get your material, and you need two offcuts of that material at the same height. It doesn't matter what they are, but they've got to be flush there. Okay, then if you calculate the width of your material, then you need those two offcuts to be parallel on the table so that that slides in between. It's a good idea to leave a slight gap between there so you're not knocking it with a hammer and forcing it through. Okay, so the next thing to do once you've screwed them onto your flat board is get a nice straight piece of planed up timber to use as your straight edge. Get your combination square, make sure that that timber is exactly straight with that, and you can be as fussy as you want with that because it really matters. Okay, so once you've determined where your cutter is going to come into your parallel pieces, because the fence of the router slides on there, and that's the distance between the fence and the centre of your cutter, then that's your shoulder for your tenon. So all you need to do is, that's your reference point, slide your timber up to wherever you've marked it, put that there, determine the depth. Now this one is about 90mm timber, so the recommendation is about a third of the thickness of the timber for your tenon. So we've got, I think it's finished about 28mm, which is fine. So we've set the depth of the cutter down to there, and when we cut this tenon out with the router, I'm just going down about 8mm a time. I don't want to try and take out the whole thing out at once. So just go down 8mm, take it all out, another 8mm, keep going until you reach your maximum depth. Set your depth stop on your router, that side's done, take that out, turn it round, and do the same on the other side. Make sure that when you do that, you use your G-cramp and cramp that down so it can't move. And that basically is your tenon done and ready to receive the mortice. The mortice, again, is marked out, and that needs to be a nice fit for that tenon. Doesn't want to be too tight because this is a big frame and we don't want to be struggling getting this together, but it needs to be a nice comfortable fit. So to set your mortice up, you find where your mortice starts and finishes. So we've got one there that's one stage behind where we are now, so that's the start, that's the finish. On this occasion we've used, this is about a 28mm tenon, so we've got a 25mm auger bit. This bit has a nice little screw lead on it at the front, so that will literally carry you through the timber, no effort. So you're going to drill everything you can to drill out as much material as you can in there, and then once you've done that stage, you can get your router, and this needs carefully setting up with the side fence, so that if you put the side fence on this side, then the edge of your cutter and this isn't plugged in, by the way, so we're fine. That determines the opposite side of your tenon, so you're literally pushing it that way to get the opposite side. If you tried to get this side with the fence on the edge of the timber, there's a danger that you could come this way and that would ruin your tenon. You'd take it out of there. So the idea is you're always pushing that way so that you can't go beyond there, because this fence would stop you. So always cut left to right, because the cutter cuts clockwise. So you would take that again. You've already pre-drilled that out. Most of the material's gone. Take that down about 8mm, take it across, lift that up, and then just carry on going down another 8mm. You can tell what depth you're doing if you use this as a reference. So if you turn that there, I can tell that there's about another 10mm to go. I can push that down, and you could set that down to whatever maximum depth you want. In this case, it's a 50mm tenon. Once you've done that side, take that off, put that on the other way round, and start again. Let's start from that end and work this way. And as you can see, that produces a very nice machined mortise that will suit your tenon. So we've got the timber sections laid out on the floor on the workshop rod, which is in the house, and we need to transfer. We've got the tenons here, but these are on an angle. So when we made the jig, we've literally, the only difference is, instead of having a square, we've worked out that angle off the drawing. We've changed that, and the tenon's cut an angled tenon. So we're going to take the lines straight off the drawing. So that's that one. Now we only put a line in the centre because that's the mark I use for a tenon. Okay, so that's literally starts there, finishes there, but as you can tell, that is going to be 90 degrees to the timber, so that edge there. Okay, so although it's at an angle, that's going to still be square to that, which means that that tenon on this side will be straight like that. I've done that light because we need to rub this off afterwards. It's not going to be painted. This one is going to be angled that way, so for that I need a sliding bevel. Okay, so for this one, although it's straight in line with this section, we're working off that shoulder as our reference point for this. So we'll set the bevel to that. That's going to be the angle of that tenon, and then we can transfer that onto this line. I'll take that up to the top. It's slightly awkward because we've got a very small bull nose on that top edge there. Okay, that's a reference point. Slide that up to there, and then very lightly just put a line on there. These are going to have to be removed afterwards. So that is the shape of that tenon coming into this timber. So same section again, same process. We're going to mark the centre along there. We're going to do a series of drill holes to take out most of the material, but obviously these drill holes, that's going to go all the way down, all the way down, and then when we get to there, we're going to have to step that up and just take out as much material as we can with the auger bit, and then the rest can be done with the router. We also need to transfer these two lines now to the other side, because these are going to be through tenons. Again, I just mark the middle of the section. And that is all we need. Okay, so we've got all the tenons cut now and the mortices, and the next stage is to lay the frame down onto the workshop rod and just individually check that each mortise and tenon go together and it's a snug fit before we try and assemble the whole thing. Okay, so for this particular joint we're going to use a drawbar tenon. So to do this, I have a description for the complete job in a separate video, so I'll put a link to that in the description for this video. But just for the purposes of this, to explain what we're doing, we drill a hole through either side of the mortice. I haven't come through all the way because I don't want the dowel to show on the outside of the frame. So we then, once we've drilled the hole, we put the tenon back into the mortice. We mark the tenon with a pencil so we can tell where the hole relates. Take the tenon out, and then we drill another hole a couple of mil further back towards the shoulder of the tenon. And then when you put that back in, of course the holes don't line up. You use a dowel with a slight bevel on the front edge. You knock the dowel all the way through, and the effect is that it pulls the tenon further in towards the shoulder and clamps the whole thing together. Okay, so there's the finished hole drilled into the tenon, slightly offset from the one drilled in the frame. We're applying PVA glue because they're a nice snug fit, these tenons, so they don't need any gap filling, and the PVA will give us just a bit more time to square up the frame later on. There's quite a few joints in this frame. I think there's 14 tenons, so we're just giving ourselves a bit of time for adjustment. That hole is approximately 2 mil further towards that shoulder than it's showing on the mortice. So once that goes together and we drive the dowel in, that'll pull up to a nice snug fit. The dowels are going in now. They're only actually visible from the inside because it's end grain and we don't want that weathering on the outside. They're hardwood and they're pulling the shoulders up nice and snug. There's no way we could get a sash cramp on this frame. It's above 5 meters high. Okay, so the frame's now all assembled with all the dowels in place. We've added a diagonal brace to keep the frame square while we move it, and a brace across the doorway at the bottom to keep that parallel. All the horns on the corners have been cut off and the frame's ready to go in.